We have 5 boat teams in the state of Texas, 2 in the coast, 3 in the border. Our main focus is the human trafficking, narcotics, and the interdiction of criminal activity.
We're going to go down to the middle of the river and watch both sides. We saw the smugglers last night getting ready to cross.
Smugglers exploit the porous open border that we have in this country and use it to smuggle drugs, human beings. We're going to see it on the ground here at the river.
And so the ones we are apprehending, I think you heard the stat yesterday, we're apprehending at least 1 child molester, almost on a daily basis, weekly basis.
Came in at 1427.
Coming up.
What's the most people you got in one day?
Us personally, like 120 in one day.
One boat or all 5?
Just one boat.
We're out here with the Texas State Patrol, and as you can see, they have just great resources. They're great people, and these boats, really impressive. They can get up and down the Rio Grande really fast. I think up to 65 miles an hour. And it's really important because this is where people come across all the time. And so they've got to be able to cover a lot of area, and they do. But again, it demonstrates on the border, to secure the border properly, we need the right resources. We need the right mix of people and resources and technology, and of course a border wall. But hats off to these Texas Rangers, Texas Patrol. They are really something special.
This is the state trooper boat, and we just had the border patrol boats, 3 of them pass us. That is how much effort and how many attempts are made to get people across the river and contraband. So no substitute for being here to see what it's really like.
If you look up and down this stretch of river, you see people waiting to come across. This boat alone has gotten over 120 before. That has to stop.
Behind me is a wall that was built by a private landowner. That's not the U.S. government that built it. It's a private landowner, set up a GoFundMe account and built miles of wall. You notice there's lights along the wall, and talking to the local Texas Department of Public Safety, they said once this wall was built, the traffic coming across this portion of the border dropped precipitously.
God bless Texas. They've got a Marine unit that patrols this river. This is probably a great expense to the people of Texas, probably a great expense to the landowner to have to build a wall, and there's no upside to illegal immigration, but these guys and gals on this river are making us all safe, and we need to appreciate it.
The fact that you've got a private landowner here who, seeing a problem, has figured out a solution to that problem, put up his own wall. It's helped secure the area, and it's good for the country. We ought to learn from that and secure our own border.
They're so good they scale it out. They some of these smugglers, I kid you not, they are some athletic guys.
Generally, they'll throw rocks at us, bottles, throw bottles all the time. So that's why we got less than lethal. We have 40 millimeters that we can shoot CS gas, pepper spray, bean bags.
Ted Cruz leading a delegation of 18 Republican senators who have just returned from a boat tour of the Rio Grande River. Earlier in the day, they were also visiting that Donna, Texas migrant miner facility.
Senator Cruz and Senator Cornyn bringing along 16 other Republicans from non-border states to assess and address the situation on the Texas and U.S. border.
It is terrific that John and I were able to bring 18 senators down to Texas, down to the valley, to see firsthand the crisis that is unfolding here.
The smugglers, the drug runners, they understand our laws and they know how to exploit them to their benefit.
We have talked to these border patrols and they have told us how overwhelmed they are.
We need to help them by putting good policies in place.
It brings tears to your eyes to see what's happened. And let me tell you something, this ain't a Democrat or Republican problem. This is an American problem.
Every day, thousands of migrants are racing towards our border because they know, and their smugglers and their traffickers know, that they can game our asylum system.
This is something that needs to be addressed and can be addressed by President Biden, but it was very clear when we got here, there's a reason why he doesn't want the press to be here.
Today we went to the Donna facility, and what we saw were young people crammed in like sardines. So this crisis is because this administration would not listen to good advice.
President Biden and Vice President Harris need to come down.
This didn't have to happen. This is a self-inflicted wound on our nation.
The President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States need to do what we just did. They need to come down here, they need to listen, and they need to learn.
Do you need help? Should have an icon. Just it's an apple. I don't know anything about it.
We can film for you.
Yeah. Tell me when you're ready.
We're rolling. So this is no crisis at the border, right?
This is, and look at this.
Right.
And this is just folks coming across the border, unaccompanied.
They're housing them under a bridge.
Yes, and we're down here near midnight on Thursday evening, and I've not been here before. Have you been here?
I was here 2 years ago, and it bears no resemblance. We were controlling the border. Now we're hearing that Border Patrol is spending more time helping these families while criminals are bringing drugs and illicit materials into the United States. They don't have the resources to stop the illegal flow because the administration is allowing this flow that we see behind us. It's inhumane.
And when they had the stay in Mexico policy, it was
This
at
didn't
45-year record lows where you did not have this.
We've heard it from so many people, Border Patrol agents, say there's nothing like this in years. And we have people being housed underneath a bridge. And while they're doing this, criminals are coming across the river, poisoning our families, and killing 80,000 people a year.
Is this a health crisis?
It is a health.
It's a humanitarian crisis, a health crisis.
They don't have the resources to test for COVID. And when they ask someone if they're sick, they say they're not sick because they know they can get released. And then they're released if they have a child under 6 years old, and they're asked to come back in 4 years. How many are coming back?
Smugglers are getting, what, $4,000
right.
per immigrant that they bring forward.
The cartels just across the river are making almost $14 million a day to do this to these good people that need to come to this country legally, but now look at how they're being treated. Just look at look at what we're seeing here. It's sad for them and it's sad for America.
And the Border Patrol agents that we were riding with said that under the Trump administration and policies, things were working right. It was the best it had ever been, and the morale of the Border Patrol agents was at its highest level. So
President Biden said come, and they did. And now look what they're subjected to.
Tomorrow night, 18 senators are going to be traveling down to the southern border to see firsthand the crisis that is unfolding. Our friends in the media right now are not allowed to come. We want the American people to see what's happening. But Joe Biden doesn't want you to see that.
We're so overwhelmed with traffic here in the Rio Grande Valley sector that there's just nonstop flow of people coming across illegally, mainly children, family units.
Senator Cruz and I invited our colleagues from the United States Senate to come down here to see what we have a chance to see and to listen to the experts, namely you, on what's exactly happening here at the borders.
We're here to listen. We're here to learn. We're here to see with our own eyes exactly what is unfolding, the tragedy that is unfolding on the border. And we're here to do everything we can to shine a light on it.
We really appreciate the opportunity, your hospitality, and the chance to see what we're going to see both tonight and tomorrow.
We're here tonight to learn, but equally important to say thank you.
These Border Patrol agents, they have the hardest job in this country right now. We're down here to see how we can help improve that and hopefully go back with some policies that'll be effective.
Just talking with the people in charge here, you know, the compassion that they have for all these young kids coming across brings tears to your eyes. But people need to understand what's going on here, so I'm glad to be here.
You face danger, and yet you act with compassion toward the children that are coming across the border. We have got to change our policies and we have to better understand what is happening.
We're here basically with the Midnight Patrol. We're going to be right along with the Border Patrol along the border tonight. This is an effort by smugglers, drug traffickers, human traffickers. They're coming in. Talking to the Border Patrol, they say the green light was flipped when President Biden came into office, and things have just gotten worse and worse and worse.
And I want to say something about your families. When you go home, you bring the job with you, right? So how about a round of applause for your families who put up with this?
The solution here is a wall in strategic locations. That is the only way we're going to be able to stop these people from coming across. And I'm talking about all types of people. Now, the wall will not stop family units and unaccompanied children. The only way you stop unaccompanied children and these family units is by stopping catch and release and stopping that magnet. You implement the migrant protection protocols all over again. Because the reason people are leaving Central America to come into the United States is because they know that if they make it across that river, they're going to get released. So for them, it's worth paying their life savings to a smuggler because it's a guaranteed ticket into the United States. So this right here is a clandestine operation, an underground operation that the federal government is conducting here. The journalists are not allowed here. This bridge goes all the way to Mexico, maybe about a mile at the most, right? So the process is so jacked up that people just cross the border illegally. As long as they make it through all this gauntlet, they make it back here, they're gonna get released.
We're down on the southwest border in the Rio Grande Valley, and we are seeing children and families who are suffering as a result of political decisions Joe Biden made.
This is cause and effect. It's what President Biden did on January 20th when he rescinded the Remain in Mexico policy, when he ceased building the border wall. It sent a strong message down to Central America that the southern border was open.
What you see behind me, these children and these mothers and fathers and relatives, is a direct result of President Biden's policies. President Biden adopted a policy that the smugglers take advantage of, that if you come with a child who's under 6 years of age and you get here, you're released until our country.
You can see pretty much everybody here has somebody who's under 6, and that is the result of the exception that the Biden administration put on the Title 42 rule. Just talking to some of these young women, they're all young, they all have 2 or 3 year old kids. They've had a horrendous journey. The ones I've been talking to are all from Guatemala, over 3 weeks to get here, and let's face it, they just didn't show up here. It's all the drug cartels, it's the coyotes.
This facility did not exist 3 months ago. This has been stood up to be able to move people as rapidly as possible into the country.
We've seen a massive departure from a series of policies that were working.
We had the flow of family units and unaccompanied children. We had it pretty well stopped until President Biden blew up those successful policies, and now it's resulting in this. And we know it's going to happen. We know how the human traffickers take advantage of this. We know how the drug traffickers take advantage of this. We know the inhumanity that's going to be the result of this disastrous policy.
Humanitarian crisis, health crisis.
They don't have the resources to test for COVID. And when they ask someone if they're sick, they say they're not sick because they know they can get released. And then they're released if they have a child under 6 years old, and they're asked to come back in 4 years. How many are coming back?
We're on the edge of the Rio Grande. The lights you see there are smugglers.
We're on a good path at the border under leadership of President Biden.
We're here to see with our own eyes the tragedy that is unfolding on the border.
Smugglers, drug traffickers, human traffickers, they're coming in. Talking to the Border Patrol, they say the green light was flipped when President Biden came into office.
We've seen a massive departure from a series of policies that were working.
This facility did not exist 3 months ago. This has been stood up to be able to move people as rapidly as possible into the country.
So we've got a bunch of smugglers that are talking to us right now.
So the smugglers are on the other side. They're waving flashlights and they're talking. We can hear them.
They're saying, "Viva Biden."
We may be facing 250,000 migrants crossing our border every month.
They're exploiting vulnerable women and children.
They're getting paid thousands of dollars per person to bring across the Rio Grande.
We just came through a facility where they're testing unaccompanied minors. If this is not a super spreader platform, I don't know what is.
On our tour today, we saw a car that just in the tires of one car had over $2 million worth of meth in it.
With all of this narcotics coming in and the sophisticated way that the cartels have of getting drugs into our country, you can see how important it is to secure the border.
Our communities along the border facilities are being swamped. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's a public safety crisis. It needs to be addressed.
President Biden is going to be known as the illegal immigration president.
Joe Biden told the world, come on in, this is madness. It's got to stop.
No substitute for being here to see what it's really like.
To secure the border properly, we need the right resources. We need the right mix of people, technology, and of course a border wall.
It brings tears to your eyes to see what's happened. And let me tell you something, this ain't a Democrat or Republican problem. This is an American problem.
Drug runners, they understand our laws and they know how to exploit them to their benefit.
This didn't have to happen.
The Border Patrol said there is no end to this. The President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States need to do what we just did. They need to come down here, they need to listen, and they need to learn.
We've seen an increase in our narcotic seizures across the board. Marijuana's up, heroin's up, outbound. We've seized more than 250 weapons going south and $5.8 million.
This right here is not your average pallet. So this is what brought suspicion. This is where narcotics are concealed. It was a drawer load and it contained fentanyl and cocaine.
We're now at a port of entry where trucks are being screened. It is amazing how ingenious the drug smugglers are. For example, thousands of coconuts were found to have drugs inside of them.
With all of this narcotics coming in and the sophisticated way that the cartels have of getting drugs into our country, you can see how important it is to secure the border.
We do so much trade with Mexico. All the truck traffic that comes through, they spot check about 20%. And find within that 20%, just 1% to where there's something illicit on that truck. This is just another complicating factor of all the stuff that tries to come through the border.
We're here at the international bridge that carries people and produce into the United States and then across, of course, into Mexico. We met with community leaders, mayors, city council members.
As to the immigration debate, I've been involved in about every major immigration effort. There is no way to do a package, small, medium, or large, until you stop the flow. So it's a great meeting today with local officials who live and breathe the issue. This is a vibrant community. Legal immigration is the lifeblood to border counties. Because of COVID, we've basically stopped all travel from Mexico into the United States, and that's crushing the economies because they depend on people come to shop and tourism and just basic exchange of commerce. And my message to these great people is simple. Until we stop the flow, it's pretty hard to sit down and legalize people until you can convince the American people you've got control of your border. We have lost control of our border.
So this is a major port of entry. They're trying to incorporate a lot of technology into the process as well. And that's when we talk about border security, it's really an important part of it.
I think we also heard from the elected officials today from the city of Pharr, Mission, McAllen, that they're hurting down here. The Biden administration has eliminated travel across the border for COVID restrictions, but he's lifted those restrictions for illegal immigration. The Biden administration needs to realize they've made a mistake. They're responsible for this crisis, and we all need to work together to fix it.
Now, back in 2006 is when the Secure Fence Act passed, which all of you know, it gave us 55 miles here in RGV sector. Now, just with that 55 miles alone, we saw an immediate impact. Unfortunately, this area, even though it looks complete, it's not complete. We're still lacking our cameras, we're still lacking lighting, we're still lacking power. If you see some gates, those gates are not powered. So if it's shut, it stays shut. If it's open, it stays open. Because of the pause, we weren't able to complete that.
Either President Biden believes in open borders, or the people he's put in charge of his border policy are not qualified to manage a food truck.
Just after President Biden was sworn into office, he halted operations for constructing the wall and securing the border. And it's not just about the wall. Now we have sections here. Unfortunately, we have open sections you could drive a truck through, and we don't have the technology to protect it from people going above it and people going below it.
This is how nonsensical it was, really, on January the 20th when Joe Biden stopped construction. He not only exposed the country to security issues by stopping construction of the fencing, but he also exposed these whole communities to flooding because the levee system is also not going to be finished as well.
Organization's the key to winning. Border Patrol told the new administration just have a plan if you're going to change the rules. So they just dropped everything and opened it all up, and there's no plan.
On our tour today, we saw a car that just in the tires of one car had over $2 million worth of meth in it. It is amazing that we would even consider not continuing this project.
What this wall does is it slows people down who are trying to cross the border, and it gives Border Patrol time to apprehend them. But then you also have to have policies that actually result in stopping illegal immigration. Joe Biden reinstituted the failed policy of catch and release so that when you get caught, they let you go.
The day Biden was sworn into office, he signed 5 executive orders on immigration, invited people from all around the world to come to the United States, essentially saying if you get here, you can stay, which just is a conduit for people to come in. Once they get here, they stay.
Now we heard last night that they're trying to not only release people almost immediately, but within 8 hours.
This has been built in the last 6 months, and if you think someone's going to climb that, you got another thing coming. Everywhere we have built walls in America, or anywhere else in the world, Israel, the amount of illegal immigration plummets.
That there's no one who fears uncontrolled waves of illegal immigration more than lower income people, including many recent immigrants who live on or near the border. It's those people whose jobs, whose livelihoods, whose neighborhoods, whose schools tend to be most disrupted and threatened when the border isn't enforced.
The bottom line is Border Patrol tells us that when we have walls in place, we see apprehensions decrease by 60 to 90%. It's just common sense. When Border Patrol can focus then on drug interdiction and catching the really, really bad guys, it helps reduce crime.
Walls work, fences work. Wherever you try them, we have to finish this wall here.
The border wall is not political. That's what I tell everybody. It's not political. It's been made political, but it's not political. That's Border Patrol's requirement. We've had that requirement for decades. It's impedance and denial. It impedes the traffic. It denies the traffic. It forces the traffic to other areas towards the POEs where they're supposed to cross.
Our communities along the border facilities are being swamped. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's a public safety crisis. It needs to be addressed. But one of the things that will help address it is to finish the construction of the border wall. It is an essential element of our border security strategy, and it needs to get done.